Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Cornish, and today we're going to be talking about learning theories. And really, learning theories, they are under the social process theories umbrella of criminological theories. And social process theories look at the influence of external sources like family, friends, other individuals, and how that influence can lead to criminality. And in this presentation, we're going to be looking at three learning theories, as well as how learning theories are currently used in the criminal justice field, specifically evidence-based practices in correctional rehabilitation programs. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first theory we're going to be looking at is social learning theory. Now, social learning theory, it is not purely a criminological theory. Social learning theory exists in education, psychology, a multitude of other fields. So it's not just a theory that explains crime, it's a theory of, in general, how we learn. Now, social learning theory, it has foundations in a psychology concept called operant conditioning. Now, under social learning theory, learning occurs in a social setting, and it occurs through communication. Now, really, how we learn and how we behave, it's really maintained and shaped by the consequences and rewards we receive, both internally and externally. Now, we learn first through observation, watching other people, and then we start imitating them. And through our observations, we learn what's right, what's wrong, based upon the pleasure or displeasure we receive the other person receive. So, like, if, for example, let's say we watch our older sibling, they clean their room and they get a data boy from the parent. Hey, good job. Thanks for cleaning your room. Because you did that, you get to do A, B, or C as a reward. We're going to go, oh, hey, well, they cleaned their room and they got to do something fun. So maybe if I clean my room, I might get to do something fun. And then we also learn through the rewards, either positive consequences or negative consequences that we receive for our own behaviors. So either the pleasure or displeasure we end up experiencing in response to our own behavior. So if we receive positive consequences like a reward, some kind of positive reinforcement, we're going to continue that behavior because, hey, I liked how that made me feel, so I'm going to keep doing it. So, like, for example, with like babies, when they start talking, parents are like, oh, yay, they said their first word. Great. That baby's going to go, oh, hey, the adults are going nuts because I said mama or dada. I'm going to keep doing it because that was kind of cool. Or if we receive negative consequences or negative reinforcement, we're going to avoid that behavior. Like, for example, if we end up coming home late past curfew and we end up getting grounded for it, oh, ew, I didn't like the fact that I got grounded and I got yelled at. I'm going to try being home on time because what I got kind of stunk. So that's the basis of social learning theory. Again, as I stated previously, this is a general theory. It's found, you'll find it in psychology, education, mental health, criminology. It's in a multitude of fields. And as you can kind of see, there's tie-ins to rational choice theory. I apologize, I'm getting over a cold. So I'll try not to cough, but it'll probably happen. But you'll see there's tie-ins with rational choice theory because based on our own experiences as well as observations, we're going to kind of conduct an assessment and go that cost benefit analysis and go, okay, well, I saw my sibling came home late and they got grounded. So I'm going to avoid coming home late when I'm their age, or maybe even if I come home late, I'm going to try to do something better than what they did so I don't get caught. But there's a cost benefit analysis to this as we learn based on the pleasure or displeasure we either observe others receive or that we experience ourselves. Now we're going to talk about differential association because this is the criminology application of social learning theory. Differential association explains how crime can actually be learned. Now, as I've talked about previously, no one criminological theory can explain every crime or why every individual commits crime. That's part of the reason why we have a multitude of theories. And unfortunately, there are some crimes that really we don't have a theory that can actually fit them. But differential association will find as we're actually discussing the theory, there's tie-ins to a multitude of other theories, and we'll actually discuss that. Many of the criminological theories, there's actually tie-ins to other theories. Now, some of those purely by happenstance, like learning theories and rational choice theory, kind of just by happenstance based on how we learn. Some of the theories, the tie-ins are purposeful. Now, differential association, it's a process which individuals can experience really conflicting definitions on what constitutes appropriate behavior. Now, with differential association, it views that crime can be learned if we're actually getting positive feedback for it. We're seeing that positive reinforcement either from others, what others are experiencing, or what we end up experiencing. Take, for example, let's say you have a juvenile that's living in a high crime neighborhood with a lot of gangs, and they're seeing that the gang members, that even though this juvenile's been taught crime is wrong, they might be seeing these gang members, well, hey, these guys got all this money and they got all this jewelry and they've got this high status. They're getting good things for committing crime. Maybe committing crime's not such a bad thing. And we can also learn crime from what we experience ourselves, where we might be getting our deviant acts actually positively reinforced. Or even two, maybe we're committing like delinquent acts as a juvenile and we're not receiving any punishment. We might go, oh, well, it must be okay because, I mean, granted, we're not getting any praise or anything for it, but we're not getting into trouble. So if we associate with individuals that are deviant more often than those that aren't, it can actually lead to deviance because we start learning that crime is okay. It's actually appropriate. Now, one of the concepts, and I actually touched on this, is differential reinforcement. And that's when we talked about social learning theory, how we'll view something as appropriate because it's positively reinforced. We're getting pleasure versus we learn something's inappropriate because we're getting displeasure from it, a negative consequence. With differential reinforcement, it ends up being flipped. So it's doing a 180 where we could end up getting deviant acts like crime positively reinforced, where we end up experiencing pleasure from it. So we're looking at really the pleasure we've received previously, currently, and maybe even in the future. So again, you're going to have a lot of rational choice theory elements to this. So differential reinforcement, it can take place because we're seeing others committing crimes that are receiving pleasure from it, those good things like those gang members on the street corner. Man, those guys got all that money, all those good things. You know, maybe actually crime isn't so bad. Versus now maybe we're the member of that gang and now we're getting all that money and all that glory. Now, when it comes to differential reinforcement, there is a strong element of perception. And that reinforcement, it's weighted by frequency, duration, priority, and intensity. So if you've been, when it comes to differential association, as far as learning that crime is normal and appropriate, a lot of it first comes to how long we've been exposed to crime. So if we've been exposed to deviance since we were little kid, higher likelihood we're going to learn that that's appropriate versus if we've only been exposed to it for a little bit. And the next is intensity and priority of the association. Like, let's say you've got a relative like an aunt or an uncle that has committed crime. If that aunt or uncle really isn't that important to you, the fact that they're committing crime really isn't going to be significant to you. It's like, oh yeah, that's, my aunt or my uncle, yeah, they commit crime, they've been to prison a couple times. You're not, it's not going to have an effect on you. But if it's an aunt or an uncle that they're significant to you, they are a role model to you, that's going to have more significance. So if you have significant individuals, whether they're family or peers, that exhibit that deviant behavior and engage in criminal activity, there's a greater chance that you're going to become a criminal versus someone that doesn't have those significant attachments. So it's really the significance of that individual. If that individual, if they're not significant to you, not that much of an impact. If they are significant to you, higher impact. And that goes into differential identification. So the stronger you identify with that individual, the greater the likelihood their values you're going to accept as your own and view them as okay. Now, you do have a couple concepts with this. As far as how we learn, we also learn through imitating others. So that's basically copying, modeling. And you're going to be more likely to imitate the behavior of others if you're actually seeing them get rewarded for it. If you're seeing that they're not getting rewarded, you're going to be less likely to do it. So again, going back to that example of the gang members on the corner, if you view, as a child living in that neighborhood, if you would view those gang members as significant and you're seeing that all these good things are happening to them because they're a member of a gang, you're going to be more likely to model that behavior. So differential association, having that association with people that are deviant can lead to differential reinforcement. And if that association is significant to you, it could end up leading to deviant behavior. So it's kind of a cycle, but it's all dependent on the significance of that individual to you. That's why you can have, a juvenile grow up in a family that is dysfunctional. There's crime, there's drugs, gangs, etc. But they're not identifying with those family members. They're not viewing that as significant. It's like, hey, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to do that stuff. So as you can see, that significance of that relationship, that's the driving force. Now, there is one theory that really brings differential association and a multitude of other theories together that we're going to talk about, and that's social development model of antisocial behavior. Now, this is one of the theories that it purposely brings in other theories. Now, the theory encompasses social learning, differential association, social bonding, and self-control theories to determine the causes of conformity, avoiding criminal behavior and deviance. And really, under the theory, there's two paths you can go down: the pro-social and the antisocial. Now, with the pro-social path, if you have attachments to significant conventional and pro-social individuals and institutions, meaning ones that don't commit crime, that end up kind of controlling your behavior. So like if you do mess up, they hold you accountable for it, give you that displeasure. You don't have an opportunity to engage in deviance because you don't have time for it. But then also, if you do, you're being held accountable for it. And you have commitments to not committing crime and things that are pro-social, law-abiding. And you've got attachments to significant individuals that don't commit crime. You're not going to go down the criminal path. You're going to be more likely to be involved in conventional behaviors, non-committing crime. You're going to be more likely to develop appropriate coping mechanisms and protective factors, things that'll decrease the likelihood that you're going to commit crime. And you're more likely going to develop the belief that, hey, I don't want to commit crime. Crime's not the way I want to go. It's not appropriate. So that's that pro-social path. Now, again, the attachments, you've got to view it as significant. This is part of the reason why you could have juveniles come from quote unquote good families that still commit crime. That's because the individuals in like their family, they're not significant. At least they don't perceive them to be significant. It's like, well, I don't care that you don't commit crime. It's not important to me. So significance, it's a big part of learning theories. Now, the antisocial path, you are going to have significant attachments to unconventional antisocial individuals and institutions. A lack of significant attachments to pro-social individuals and institutions, ones that aren't committing crime, you're going to have that deviant criminalistic behavior positively reinforced. And you believe in antisocial values, that's going to lead to deviance and criminality. So as you can see, with this theory, there's a lot of theories that are wrapped in together. And now we're going to look at, okay, how are learning theories actually used in the criminal justice field? Now, there is a concept of evidence-based practices that are used in rehabilitative programming that's called skill building with directed practice, that it uses learning theories. Now, skill building with directed practice, it's one of the fundamental components of evidence-based practices, and it refers to the use of cognitive behavioral techniques to facilitate change. Now, cognitive therapy, it focuses on the individual's cognition, so their expectations, attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, etc., that lead to really them having maladaptive behavior. So like, for example, you might have someone that has anger issues. And they may not know how to appropriately deal with their anger. Then you have the behavioral side, which is also known as behavioral modification. That's the application of learning concepts to direct modification of problem behaviors. So like, let's say you have someone, again, they've got the anger issues. They don't know how to appropriately deal with it. So if they get angry at somebody, they start yelling at them, fighting them. Where with cognitive behavioral therapy, what it'll do is, okay, let's look at why you get angry. How do you actually deal with your anger? Oh, well, if I get angry at somebody, I yell at them, I fight them. Okay, what kind of problems can that cause? What are some better ways you could deal with your anger? And then they actually help the person learn how to better deal with their anger. And cognitive behavioral techniques, you've got structured lessons and exercises that address problem solving, coping mechanisms, decision making, and other factors. And there's a lot of role playing and modeling. So, like the person, like the staff that actually delivers the class, and there's a lot of different cognitive behavioral programs that are out there. So, like, you'll have the staff that's doing the class will actually show how, like, in this situation, like, let's say somebody calls you stupid, how you should handle that. And then you'll end up having a lot of role playing. And then you'll also get feedback like, hey, you handled that situation really, really well. So if you face that in real life, that's how you should handle it. Or, hey, you kind of messed up right here because you started yelling at the person. What's some ways you could have maybe handled that situation better? Okay, well, let's try that. For this next one, let's try that. So a lot of feedback with it. The reason why when it comes to offender rehabilitation, learning concepts are used so much is in most cases, crime is learned. And you have to unlearn crime and other maladaptive thoughts and behaviors. And then it takes time to learn more appropriate ones. So cognitive behavioral techniques, they work on really the logic behind someone's behavior, attitudes, values, and beliefs. Why do you think that way? Why do you behave that way? And then it helps either them avoid those thoughts and behaviors, or hey, when I am having these thoughts, instead of doing things the way I used to do, I need to make sure I'm doing it this way now. And there's a lot of role playing involved because you've got to practice. You can't just, oh, we'll do things this way and then let them go on their way. It takes a lot of practice to learn, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And there's a lot of, basically what happens is when like a new skill is brought up, the staff will demonstrate how to perform the new skill or behavior and how to use it properly. And then there'll be a lot of role play. And then when the offender, when they are doing good, there'll be positive reinforcement. And if they're not maybe doing so good, constructive feedback. It's not going to be, oh, well, you stink. That was horrible. It's, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done this. And let's explore why that wouldn't work. Well, what could you maybe have done differently? Well, how could that have maybe worked? So through the cognitive behavioral techniques, the offender learns appropriate pro-social behavior from staff, and they're given the opportunity to actually learn and demonstrate it. through a safe environment. And that's what that role playing provides. So if any of you end up going into like case management, for example, in the criminal justice field, you're going to be doing a lot of role playing with clients. But then you're also going to be giving constructive feedback to help them learn. Now, cognitive behavioral based programs, the reason why they are used is so heavily in the criminal justice field is research has shown that they reduce the risk of reoffense by 25%. And depending on the program and the individual, that reduction could be anywhere from 25% to 57%. And that's actually pretty big numbers. Now, I hope all of you enjoyed the presentation. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to contact me. Again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day and stay safe out there.